Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Shit Show. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Carly Cloer. And the Shit Show is where I interview guests. They talk about a super shitty situation in their life, a shit show. And I ask questions. They talk about if they hit a rock bottom, what their turning point was, and how they climbed out, and they triumphed, and they live to tell about it. So today, I'm so excited with one of my dearest friends, Katie Dorn. Yay. Oh my gosh, I didn't even ask you how you want me to introduce you. How do you want me to introduce you?
That's perfect. I'm still busy laughing about you saying triumphed in that helmet, so I'm excited. I don't care.
La, la, la. Okay.
I know there needs to be musical sound effects.
Yes. I am wearing this Viking helmet because I don't have makeup on. It's kind of a shit show over here. So I just thought, why not? Like, I need an excuse to wear this, and today's the day.
And so beautiful.
Welcome to the shit show. We're all wearing Viking helmets. Yes. Miss Katie, I thank you so much for being on my show.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to be here.
So why don't you tell everybody quickly kind of what you do? You're a mama of two, and what do you do? What's your
I feel like even the description of me is such a shit show, which you totally know, because it's like I call myself a multi-potentialite, which is a term that I found over the last year, because it's very hard for me to stick to one thing because I get bored. Mm-hmm. So I work behind the scenes in people's online businesses as a consultant / done for you. But if I tried to say like, oh yeah, no, I've got my marketing picture perfect and I just tell people this is what I do, like it'd be a lie, because I do something different in every single one of their businesses, because pretty much done everything behind the scenes. And then I also have learned to see the patterns and recognize growth and how to help especially creative entrepreneurs in their pursuits of growth without being a cut and copy system. So it's a blend of that. But I also have my invention that I'm working on, which you know of, that I like mad scientist in my kitchen.
Tell everybody really quick what that is, and I want to let my dog in that's fucking clawing at the door. Okay, keep talking.
Okay. So I am creating a product for babies, and I can't say too much about it because I just got the minimally viable product done. But essentially, I really want this to be in NICUs across the world, and it's designed to feel like a mother's arms for infants, and particularly our most vulnerable in the hospitals that can't be touched, because we know how important Kanga care is and how important it is to their development to feel like they're held and loved, and how much their brain grows, how much they grow when they have skin-to-skin contact. And especially our babies in the NICU don't get that. So there is going to be a home market option as well, which is actually how it started. I don't know if I ever told you that, Carly. The home market idea came first because my daughter was so freaking clingy, and I had to rock her to sleep every single night when she was a baby. She's almost 7 now. And every time that I set her down in the crib, it was like, it didn't matter if I just spent 2 hours rocking her to sleep, she woke up. And so it actually started as a home idea of, I wanted it to feel warm and feel like skin, like a mother's touch. That was actually the original name for it, mother's touch, so that they didn't wake up. Because what's the point of having these these snuggle things? What are they called? Swaddles. What's the point of having a swaddle that like guarantees them to sleep longer if they don't stay asleep? Like there's nothing to keep them sleeping from your arms to crib.
Yes.
So it solved that solution. And then my son ended up in the NICU, and it reignited the idea. And I thought this has to be in NICUs first, because I'm like a crunchy granola mom. And it was really, really hard. Like, oh my God. I wish that like I could like scroll images across, because like he had a tube down his throat, so people couldn't even hear him when he cried. So I was worried about like all the effects of him feeling like people weren't there and weren't responsive to him. But also I couldn't even hold him for the first couple, I don't even know how long, week or so. We had like specific touch times, and if we missed the touch time because they were off schedule, because we were always there on time, we couldn't touch him because he couldn't be overstimulated, because if we overstimulated him, they'd have to sedate him because he would catch all these it was just brutal. And by the way, I had him at home. So I had him at home, and he was rushed to the NICU. And so that's like, if you want to add trauma to like the story, I was that kind of crunchy granola mom where I was like, oh my God, most beautiful birth experience. He's in an ambulance rushing it. And that's not even my shit show story.
No, but that is a shit show. That is a shit show.
I have so many shit shows in my life.
We all do. And
know.
I know that whoever is watching and they're drawn to your story, they are going to have hope, and it's just going to hit the right people at the right time. So I know that what the story that you want to share, the shit show that you want to share, is going to be perfect for the people watching and listening. So Miss Katie, I don't really know what you're going to share, but I know I'm going to love it, and everybody viewing will love it. So what's your shit show?
So this one, and I just want to say to those out there, I also have a separate one where I battled chronic illness while I was in high school, to the point where I had to drop out of college and everything, and I was listed as disabled because I couldn't go to classes by myself without fear of blacking out, and I woke up on the side of the road a couple times biking home from work because I had just passed out when I asked to go home. So I have a chronic illness story where I was totally failed by a lot of different medical doctors as well, but that's not the one that's calling me to be shared.
That can be on a different episode.
I just wanted to put it out there because I know you have your chronic issues as well, and I just think it's so important, especially I think you mentioned rock bottom, and I think that that's at a point in my life where I really felt I think I felt more at rock bottom then, because when your health is gone, and especially because I was young and I was promising, and I was class president, and I was in all these AP classes, and all of that was stripped away, and I was just this lump on the floor. I think that was more of a rock bottom than the story I'm going to tell. But this story is a different form of rock bottom, and I had kids, so I think but I just wanted to share that was probably my ground level.
Got it.
If you're going through that, I get it, and I would be happy to chat in the comments with people, or you could reach out to me, because I know what that feels like as well, and I'm proof of coming out on the other side of it.
I would love to have that as a I don't want to say follow-up episode, but just a second episode where, because I know, with chronic illness and the lack of hope, there's just speaking from my own experience, you just have no hope anyway. Yeah. So that's for an upcoming episode.
Yeah. So the one that I want to share is, it happened a couple of years ago, and I'll just start at the beginning. So I live, I'm not going to say exactly where, but I live in Nevada, and I'm originally from the Midwest, and all of my closest long-term friends are in the Midwest. My sister is in the Midwest. All of my family's in the Midwest. I'm just sharing that so that, I don't have really anybody here. And I have great friends, but it's not the same as those soul and heart people. They're people that I would still come see, but visiting.
That have known you forever. Yeah.
Yeah. They're not my ride or dies. So it's not as connected, and, so I came out here when my daughter was less than 2, and I guess I should just start there. I was in a mentally, for sure, abusive relationship. It was never really physical, but there was intimidation, punching walls, kicking through doors, shattering glasses in front of me, that sort of thing. And we had already been split up, and he had supposedly a dream role here. And I had a job lined up in Chicago that I was going to move to, with a daycare on site, all of the things that I would need as a single mom. It was amazing. And he basically, without calling him a narcissist, he might be even more. He definitely has very, very, very narcissistic tendencies. And he manipulated me and said, please, this is the first time, don't make me choose between my family and my career. I've wanted this for so long. Everything's falling into place, blah, blah, blah. Please just come with me. And I basically said, okay, I'll come with you, but we're not together. And we were going to live together, but we weren't going to be together. It was just neither of us, I had never even visited Las Vegas, and we were going to be living in a suburb of Las Vegas. And so I was I'm not going to, just move to a city I don't know at all, totally by myself, no connections out here, nothing. So the plan was to move together, get settled, figure out the city, get jobs, and then kind of like move into different places. So long story short of that, I don't know if what he was ever saying was ever actually real, because, you know, it magically dissolved after I had already told my job that I was lined up for in Chicago, that I was not going to be taking it and I was moving elsewhere. And 3 days before I was supposed to leave for Vegas with my less than 2-year-old, and he was already there. And so there was a choice to make. And I was like, well, you know, I've always been down for adventure. Let's just see, like, this, maybe this was meant to happen. Let's just see.
So this dream job of his that he got offered was no longer, like, it was non-existent?
It probably never was, but I'll also probably never know.
Yeah.
It was supposedly, he's also very into like the entertainment scene, not so much anymore, but he had made a movie that had premiered at a short film festival that was getting likes, and it wasn't a porno, but Ron Jeremy was in it, so it had like some big recognizable names.
Yeah.
And it was also with a rock star. And so supposedly they were picked up by this online management team that was going to do a online web series with them and pay them for an online web series. And the story I was told is that it went under new management and they voided the contracts unethically and unlawfully. But to me, I'm like, but if you have all these big names, nobody's going to go after the fact that they unlawfully voided contracts. I mean,
yeah. I mean, the details are whatever.
The details are whatever.
Yeah. It just didn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that, like, I just wanted to share how I got here. So then I tried leaving multiple times, and there was always some crisis when he knew I was going to be leaving. And I was the one always making money and supporting us and doing whatever it took to make sure my daughter was taken care of. And I was just like a bleeding heart. Like, I'm super empathic, and I was just this bleeding heart of like, I can't let my daughter see her dad as a loser. Like, I've got to make sure he's on his 2 feet before I leave. Mm-hmm. So as bad as it was at home, and he probably knew that as well, like, you know, as much as I'm saying, like, yes, there was like mental abuse, he was clocked out, drugs, everything. It was just like, I could shield my daughter from it if I was in it. And so I was just thinking about her. So I finally get out. This is like, I don't even know. So we moved here in March 2015. I got out close to the end of 2016. Yeah, close to the end of 2016. And I literally just signed a lease without even telling him, because I was like, I tell him there's going to be, you know, some devastating thing that happens that he can't get out of. And after I signed, even, he was saying, oh, I might lose my job. I've gotten written up for this and this. And I was like, you know, no longer my business. So I'm
Were you guys married?
No.
No. Okay.
No, he tried multiple times. He proposed and he used taxes as an excuse. And I mean, just everything. Mm-hmm. No, I never went down that route.
Okay.
So yeah. So that at least was clean. So anyways, we split up, and then I'm living on my own. And then I met my current partner, Michael, and we're together, which obviously upsets him. And my original ex is still trying to like be in my life and using my daughter as an excuse. And of course, bleeding heart me, I'm like falling for it. Michael sees straight through it. And I'm just like, no, he wants her to like feel comfortable and like have, you know, she's not even in school yet. So to me, I think like, it's important that she sees that we're friends, and we, you know, it's not just like drop off, pick up, like, let's make this as easy as possible. And so, and mind you, like, I think it's important to note, like, I was doing everything. I was paying for his transportation. I was paying for, he let bills slip, and like around Christmas time, so that he could have my daughter and she would still have a Christmas. This is right after I moved out. I literally paid over $700 in back paid bills that I didn't know he had been paying, when I had been giving my share every single time, you know. And so he claimed he had gambling debts. Again, I'll never know what the truth is.
Yeah.
And so because his mode of transportation, which was his idea, was a motorcycle. So it'd be cheaper, because he said he'd be able to afford to pay me every month, pay me one time out of the entire time. And so anyways, I had to be the one that picked up and dropped off Sophia. Mm-hmm. I would bring over special food, because when she was around 3.5, we realized she had a gluten intolerance as well. And he said he couldn't afford it. So I'd bring her over food. I was the one that would constantly arrange the schedules. If his schedule was different, I'd work around it, whatever. I was the one dropping her to the babysitter. I mean, I was doing like 14-hour days and doing everything to keep her in his life,
Mm.
where she just got to see the good parts. So that's important in the story because it ties into what's coming up. So I was working in car sales as well, which is pretty demanding and can be really long hours. And I was all over the city because I was living in a suburb outside the city, working up in the Northwest. My babysitter was in the Southwest. So it was like 14-hour days between the drive of like getting her, dropping her off, being at work and everything. And, but I was happy. I was happy doing that. And kind of, I wanted a way out, but like, you know, I was, things were good is what I'm trying to say at this point. So it's like July, it's actually August 2016 now.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been living separately 7 months, and there have been some hiccups. He's been, you know, my ex has been brutal and mean sometimes, and he's still been manipulative, and he made false allegations against Michael and the way that he acted with Sophia, which was ridiculous. We had to take like the offensive and take her to therapy and say like, look, is there any sign of anything? Just to be, I mean, I knew
Right.
like the story he was referencing, but I wasn't going to be that mom either that was like caught off guard and didn't listen, even though she showed no signs. So anyways, there was still drama, but again, still like pretty much good. So I was planning on moving back to the Midwest because I wanted to pursue comedic writing. There was a lot of my connections in Chicago had been involved in Second City or IO, which are very big improv places. And I was very much in the comedic community, and I was an actor in Chicago, and I just really wanted to get back to that. And they were opening the Harold C. Ramis School for comedic writing. And I was like, that's what I want. I want to go there. I want to do that. I can't like kill myself in car sales. I don't belong here. They literally called me like the hippie child, like the flower child in car sales. Like everyone knew I didn't belong, but it was just
how funny.
And so I was like really excited. I was applying, and my ex knew all of this, and he was faking support. Like, totally get it. Like, you've always wanted to be there and you always loved it there. I'm going to stay here. You know, oh, it'll be so sad for Sophia, but you know, this is what you want. Totally gave me permission to like apply, go, said he'd support it. You know, I know that you'll, you know, I'll still see Sophia. It'll be sad for us, but whatever. And so I'm applying and I'm trying to get in. And after I had applied, but before we found out, he like rushes a relationship and files custody papers on me with his new girlfriend 2 weeks after they started dating. And actually only 1 week after he admitted they were dating.
Oh my gosh.
And if for anyone that has ever been in a custody battle, you can't leave the state. Like, it would be against the law for me now to take Sophia and go with me, even though I had all this proof. So that was the start of the decline, where I just felt totally abandoned, totally crushed. I mean, I had this like trajectory of like, I was going to go home, be around my family and my friends, take Sophia back to the Midwest, which she always says she wants. She still says she wants to live there. I mean, she's obsessed with it. Loves visiting her grandparents there. And so that was like the start where I was like, what the hell? Like, how did this happen? And he obviously took everything back and just said, oh, I don't want you to leave. Well, I found out it was because he wanted to, and this is just my version of the story, but he wanted to play that he was this amazing dad to this new girlfriend who had 2 sons. And, oh, I have a daughter, and she had always wanted a daughter, blah, 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 blah. I don't want to say too much because God forbid they see it someday. But so he wanted to play like amazing dad role, which he had never played. So he was like, painted me as this horrible ex that, you know, wasn't doing anything for him to be able to see his daughter. Oh my God, he only got her 1 or 2 days a week. Never mind you, he could only handle her 1 day a week usually. And I was the one picking up and dropping off. So yeah, so that's filed, and I just lose my shit because the most important thing in my life is Sophia, obviously. And I'm like, he's never cared. You know, how dare he? He also gets involved in all these father's rights groups to like.
But it wasn't until he started dating this girl.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
And I'm convinced, because of everything that was going on, I'm convinced that she's the one that actually filed it and gave him the money to file it. I'm sure he gave her some great sob story. He had to go along with it, sort of thing, because of the story he was playing.
Yeah.
So that happens. I start I'm instantly devastated, definitely not myself, thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? Start seeking out a lawyer, obviously. Find this lawyer that's my dad really pushes me on. She's crazy expensive. So I actually didn't want to go to her. I had found this other lawyer that it was like a flat rate fee all the way up through your first hearing. And I liked that actually, this ties into my other shit show story. I liked that he looked at books and things. If he didn't know the answer, he would look it up.
Mm-hmm.
And just a quick blurb from my other shit show in case we do this and people tune in. The doctor that was the first, it was actually a counselor. The counselor that was no, it was my doctor. My university counselor and doctor were what changed everything for me in the other shit show story. But the doctor was the first one that looked up in a book what I was describing, these migraines I was having, and said, oh yeah, that's real. They're called basilar migraines. And it was the first time my story was validated in like 3 years of suffering.
Wow.
Somebody that looked up a book. So it like the emotional aspect of the fact that he was looking things up in books too, like really hit me home. And I was like, oh, I want to go with him. And my dad, of course, he was well-meaning, but in his well-meaning manner was just like, this isn't something you play around with. This is your daughter. You don't go for the bargain one. Okay, so I go to her and she's like, oh yeah, I'm really great at this. I have this come to Jesus talk. It'll be a couple months. So my lease is ending on my apartment that I had rented when I had moved out from my ex. And I think, well, I'm not going to be here long. I don't want to start a lease, then have to worry about paying fees to break the lease and also paying to move across country. Because I'm thinking in my head, like, of course I'm going to win. Like, I'm the only one in her life. Like, I've been the one doing everything.
Yep.
And so I never, like, I didn't even have that thought that, like, it could go any other way at this point, even though I'm still devastated. And I was like, okay, so I'll just move in with, like, my friend Katie. She's got this spare room and, you know, I'm not going to be there long, and then I can leave whenever I need to. And she wants some extra cash. Like, it's perfect. And she had 2 girls. She was I should put this in there too. She was my babysitter for Sophia while I was at car sales. Okay. So she's like, you know, one of my closest people here. She's one that's like family that I would miss and stay in contact with. So it was perfect because she had one girl that was the same age, one girl that was older, open space, Soph knew all of them. Like, I was like, oh, this is great. Yeah, I'll be there for like a couple months. Okay, so it's not a couple months. Passes way by the couple month mark, and we're like deep into litigation. We haven't even heard, I don't know if it's actually called litigation, but like deep in paperwork. We haven't even seen like anything actual yet. And in this time frame, I'm like starting to really like crash. Like, I will be honest, Carly, I'm going to sound really conceited in saying this, but I had anxiety and depression when I was sick, when I, like my other shit show story, when I was ill. And I always justified it because I was like, well, yeah, I mean, I was young and literally my whole life was wiped out in front of me. All my friends were having fun. I was literally a blob on the floor. Like, anybody would be anxious, like depressed in that state because you just feel totally out of control. So I always had compassion for people that have anxiety and depression, but I always thought in my adult life, oh, that's not going to be me. Like, I've been there. You know, I've seen the worst of it. I'm not going to, Okay, no, I was spiraling into anxiety and depression because it was that same feeling of being totally out of control of my life and what was most important to me in that moment, which was my daughter. And he was playing games with, by the way, he hired a criminal lawyer to fight in family court.
Okay.
So that says something as well. And so they were playing a lot of mind tricks and tactics that my lawyer had never seen either, and manipulating a lot of different things. And one of the things that he was trying to do was saying, hey, it makes no sense that you're paying for a sitter while you're at work all day. I can take her that whole time. Well, of course, this had never been offered before. He had never wanted to do that. And I knew, because I was reading up on all of this shit right now, that he was trying to establish himself as the main custodial parent because I had long work days and he had gotten fired from his other job and he was playing the role of like, I'm a great stay-at-home dad. He had stepped into that with his new girlfriend. He had moved in with her. Like, so they,
but did you fall for it, or did you know that he was there?
No, I knew that he was doing it. And I instantly was like, I have to leave my job. I have no idea what I'm going to do, but I have to leave my job. I can't just, I know what he's doing. I can't do that. So, but obviously that opened up a whole other window of things because I left my car sales job, which was my only source of income, and suddenly I have no income. And I started, I did everything I could to survive. I started Ubering and lifting. Michael was Ubering, my partner was Ubering and lifting. And obviously my rent went way down because I moved in with a friend and I was just renting her room. It was actually 2 rooms, but one main room and then like a playroom area and the bathroom. So I was like, I can make this work. Well, that looked really, they used that against me in court, made it look like I was really unstable, like I couldn't keep a job. I mean, he had strewn so many lies there too. So he was saying that it was, one, because I had pretty much effed everyone on the sales floor.
Oh my gosh.
He had done this at 2 of my places. He tried getting me fired through HR at both of my jobs in Las Vegas. And then he had said in court documents that I was such an alcoholic that I had lost not only myself all my jobs, but I had lost him his career. First of all, he never had a career. But yeah, so there was just lies being strewn all along here too. That's adding to like my anxiety and depression because he's getting away with saying everything against me in court documents, official court documents, in the ruling of my daughter, the most important thing in my life, and nobody's doing a thing about it. Like I'm being told that there's nothing I can do. I'm being told family court's the one place where they don't give a shit about perjury. Just doesn't matter. They don't investigate any of it. They won't book you for it. So he can basically say whatever he wants about me, and it's just a he said, she said battle. And I'm like,
when did it get, like, when did you really hit rock bottom? Like, when you, in this shit show story?
So I will get there now. So I left my job at the end of 2016 as well, right about the time that I'm moving in with my friend, doing Uber and Lyft. February, I get pregnant with Michael's baby, Philo, who I have now.
Yes.
My little shitter there.
Pumpkin pie. Yes.
Yeah. And so I'm sure like the hormones of that didn't add to it. I'm definitely still in a really wavy state. It's hard to say when the bottom hit, Carly, because I remember even at Christmas, they wanted to take her out of state. And I had I was having such severe anxiety around how much time he was forcibly having with her in the vacation, because I truly, truly believed he would do anything to maintain his story. And there's part of me that feared, like I was literally crying and shaking, saying he's going to murder her and bury her in the woods to maintain his happy dad story, because he knows he's going to lose. And he doesn't want that to come out. He is going to murder her and bury her in the woods and come back and say she's missing and we were on a hiking trip and, she was talking to this man. I was like, he's going to do whatever it takes to maintain his story. He's going to murder my daughter. So I was seriously believing that. I still think that was a possibility. Truthfully, that is like the level that he will go to maintain.
Wow.
So, circumstances obviously allowed for it not to go that way. And probably his new wife, who I have issues with, but overall I really like her and I like her being involved in Sophia's life. So I think she's probably plays into that as like a great piece.
Mm-hmm.
But my leveling of anxiety was there. And also where like I was driving for Uber and Lyft as my only source of income. And I would like on Christmas, I remember I just had this like overwhelming feeling. And again, this is one where I can't prove it as well. I think this was just anxiety where I was like, I can't go out driving right now. I feel like if I go out right now, I'm going to die. And then there's the part of me that's like the empathic woo-woo part that's like, maybe that was actually true. Like maybe I was really tapped in and it's good that I didn't go out that night. But the other part of me was like, but it could have just been anxiety, like the anxiety of everything. And I was never seriously depressed during it. I would say that I was like generally mildly depressed. Like nothing could really bring me happiness. Anxiety was high. Depression was like low.
Okay.
I would have like just total mental outbursts, crying, and I'd be so upset with myself because it just felt like everything was out of control. Like any move that I made, including leaving car sales, anything just felt like the wrong move. Like every move I made, he was spinning to make me look worse. And I just felt like a
no-win situation.
It felt like a no-win situation.
Yeah.
It felt like everything that I do, he was going to, like he was he was appealing, saying I was living in unfit living conditions in my house. I had gotten rid of all of my animals because he said he was going to call child services on me, which, by the way, he's done this year. So, and I'm like a huge animal person too. So I didn't get rid of them. I actually have all of them back, but I had put them in different homes where I knew I'd be able to take them back. So I had no animals living with me. Like, I had made every sacrifice I could think of. I had a new job in January, so I left like Uber and Lyft. And I was working from home, and it was really, really flexible. And then even like their management was changing because they were a startup and they were growing, which is probably why I'm so passionate about like startups and growth, not losing their heart and losing what they say they're going to do in the focus of growth, because I saw them going like this, but also it was affecting me. Like, I was in a pattern where it was working and everything looked good and I was making regular income, and well, my life just got so chaotic and so hectic, and the anxiety was getting so bad, and I had court meetings and I had paperwork I had to fill out, and I constantly had to update them of different, like, I had to sift through all of our text messages to show all the different stuff. I mean, there was so much involved that they were basically like, at the end of my trial period, they're basically like, look, we love you, but you've got a lot of stuff going on, which it did. It felt like a total soap opera. I mean, we got like bed bugs during this time. There's just so much.
Gosh. Ugh.
That was probably like the low where I like lost the job and I had gone through all this shit. And he's saying like, he's just burying me and stuff. We still haven't even had a single court hearing.
Oh my gosh.
And this is like 6 or 7 months in, when I thought I was going to be moving back home in like December. This is now April. And yeah, I still have my anxiety, my depression. And they were basically like, we love you. We know you're going through a lot. Like, once everything's settled, come back to us, but we're going to let you go for right now. So I'm back to having no income. I have such bad anxiety that I'm like, I don't even know how I can get a job. I have the offer to go back to car sales, kind of, because I have a lot of connections. And I was just like, I can't, because he's going to find out. And there was also, this was also anxiety ridden as well, and obviously talks about my money story. But I was also like, if I'm making this kind of money and he's not making anything, he's going to go after half of my income too. He's going to do it. He's going after 50% custody. He's going to come after me for child support, because Nevada's a 50-50 state. And I was like, I can't, I've supported him way too long. I can't do that. So there was also this fear of like making too much and putting that target on my back, because like I said, every move I made was just, he spun it. It didn't matter.
Well, let's talk about your turnaround. Is it okay if we get to that?
Yeah, I'm kind of there.
Okay.
That's kind of the low. So this is right around like April on her birthday, and I've lost the job and I'm whatever. I guess it gets kind of lower because like Michael ends up getting in a car accident. My dog ends up getting cancer, but I'm kind of on the mend by then. So I'll just say that it wasn't like, it's still pretty rocky, but, so the mend comes where I was just like, I started taking this, like, this was like even earlier, but I started taking this like herbal tincture for anxiety that was actually helping quite a bit. Like, if I felt an attack coming on, I would just take this herbal tincture and it was working pretty well. So I started taking control of my life back. And then I was also just thinking, like, I'd been following this person online, and I reached out to her and I said, like, I have no idea how I'd pay for it, but I feel like I could go to therapy for 2 years and still be a shell of myself. Cause I just felt like I didn't even feel like myself. I felt like anybody that's seen Get Out, I felt like I was in that, like, that empty space or whatever. Like, just like, I can see me and I want to come back there, but I don't even know how. And I said, like, I feel like I could do 2 years of therapy and maybe make some progress, or I could work with you for a couple months and be back to myself. So I started taking action. I actually signed up with her, and she's not like a therapist or any kind of, I know that you know who she is, but for those watching, she doesn't have any like degrees or stuff. It was just from me watching her stuff online and the way she was talking about like victim mentality and how we can take back our power. And I had started reading books. Like, I was reading like a book about Ho'oponopono, the Hawaiian practice of like seeing yourself in others. I was a little too early for that because I was just still in a very much a point of like, F you, I am nothing like him and I can't accept this. So that it was a little too early for that. But I did start taking these shifts, and I was like, I have no idea how I'm going to come up with this money every single month. I have no job. I am barely making it by. I'm living in a 1-bedroom house. I wouldn't be able to move out if I wanted to, but I'm going to do it. I have to. Like, this is my lifeline. I have no other choice. And from there, I started taking like mini steps towards my own freedom too. Like, I love running, and I hate, you know me, I hate the heat. I am not a desert person. Part of
Yeah.
like, today I'm grateful because in the Midwest, it's like negative 50 degrees. Like all the schools are closed down, negative 50 with wind chill and beyond. But in general, I can handle cold better than I can handle heat. So that plays in too, because I hate being outside here. So I was like, I'm using that as an excuse. I can still get out. So it was like I was pregnant. It was 113 degrees and I was still going for runs. And I started just doing that every day.
Yeah.
Like not every day, but like five times a week. And
Wow.
it'd be like 1 to 2 miles. I wasn't overdoing it. And I was making sure I was staying hydrated and not overheating. But I was doing it. I was like, F this. I'm using that as an excuse. I can still get out there and run. If I want to run, I can go run. And I'm going to prove it to myself. So it was like these little baby steps of reclaiming my power, even if it seems small. So the biggest thing was when I started, the way I started interacting with my ex, because I started taking my power back there as well, where I was just like, F it. If I know that every single move I take is the wrong make, or every single move I make is wrong, I might as well just do what I want to do and not play into his games. Cause I was terrified. I was terrified that if I didn't answer him, or if I didn't respond, or if I didn't defend myself against these allegations he was texting me, that I was going to look guilty. And that was like ruling me as well. Cause I was like, I can't just like, I have to answer. I have to, like, I have nothing to hide. But it was spiraling my anxiety. It was spiraling out of my day. So I just started like simply saying like, no, or I'm doing this, or look, I picked this up and you can come get it here. Like, you know, like Sophia got sick before they were going to take her to vacation. And he was mad because I kept her. I took her in. I kept her that extra night. I got her medications. And I said, okay, you can come pick her up and get the medications. And he was like, no, we're not going to do that. You better bring her here and you better be here at this time and blah, blah, blah. And I just said, no, you want to take her? You're going to come get her medications, because you guys didn't even pick up her medications when you told me you would. I have her medications. I have her. You can come get her at this time. And you're not going.
Awesome. You're taking back control.
Yeah. And it's so crazy because I just felt like I couldn't even do that. But I think that I had like, you know, I think it's that rock bottom of feeling like, you know, I really can't get any lower. Everything I'm doing is wrong anyway. So I might as well just do what I want to do, is really what it was, where I was just like, it was still hard every single time. That's fine.
Yeah.
But you know, it was those mini steps that were like climbing me out. And so, it just went up from there. Like I started applying to, like, I love acting. And so I started applying to acting gigs, and I was encouraged to apply for this gig with the students here, like the medical students. And it's called being a clinical simulation patient. And I got that job. I was only one of 2 out of an entire room of people auditioning that day. And many of these people knew like the acting, like the acting world here. And they had come from some of like the studios here. And I knew nothing about that. So I was one of 2 people that got hired that day.
Oh my gosh, how cool. That's like what you see on Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Did you watch Seinfeld with the episode with Kramer? Yeah.
Yep. What Kramer does. Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I still do that today.
Oh, you do? Oh my gosh, how cool.
Yeah. I get to submit, you know, add it to the list at the beginning. Like I submit my availability, and I do it like not regularly, but maybe about once a month.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So I started getting that job. So around this time is when my dog almost died and got cancer, and then Michael lost his job. And mind you, I'm like bound to a contract now, but I'm on the up, you know, I'm coming up, but I have to come up with close to $1,000 every single month. And I have like no money, and Michael's now out of work, and the car's crashed and everything else. And my dog has cancer, and we just racked up a $3,000 bill with her in the hospital on a care credit card, like on like, you know, another credit card that, but even I was starting to be able to see the miracles and even all of this though. Good. Like that. So that was part of like the men too, is like just seeing the daily miracles in everyday life, even when it felt like things were going wrong. So, you know, my dog, Gawe, who actually just passed recently, I know you know that. Yeah. He's the one I'm calling Cancer Dog. So this was like a year and a half ago. Like she made it a long time, and she cost us a lot of money that we're still paying for. But it, you know, she had a good life, and it started with that. Like, I was actually at the vet applying for something else because in the midst of all my drama, and my dogs are living elsewhere, both of my dogs got a UTI, and I was like even upset about that because I was like, they've never had I have no money, they have a UTIs now, I got to take them in. So I'm taking them in, and that's when I had applied for this care credit. And I was like, I have no money. I have no idea where my credit score is. Like, I'm just going to say what I need for this visit. So I'll just put like, I need $350 or something. They approved me for $3,500.
Oh my gosh.
And guess how much Galway's treatment ended up being? Close to
3,500.
Close to 3,500.
Yeah.
Over the course of
man.
like the entire time. So I was seeing the blessings even in that. Like, I didn't even ask for that. The universe delivered it. Guess what? That's where her treatment ended up being. And her treatment would have been even more, but the doctor loved us so much and knew what we were going through. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the time it was just a matter of keeping her on saline. They weren't really doing anything with her. They were just trying to get her stable. Mm-hmm. He didn't even end up charging me for like 9 days that she stayed overnight. So, I mean, we were getting miracles left and right. I actually
awesome.
Yeah. I started tracking like my, I started using the Secret Money app to like track different things. Mm-hmm. And I was realizing, even though I didn't have all this like cash, like in my hand, I had gotten like $24,000 in like gifts over the course of like a 3-month period, including like, 9 days of hospital relieved and $3,500 care credit extension that I wasn't expecting. And then this is crazy too, Carly. So I didn't know how I was going to afford like these classes. And I just knew it was like important to do. And, by classes, I mean like working with this mentor that I said,
which really, it sounds, I mean, just to say really quick, it sounds like working with this person was the catalyst to start getting you to believe in yourself again and really take your control back and take your power back. And so that sounded like the big turning point.
100%. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Like, I had to trust myself enough to sign up with it. And it was the biggest investment I'd ever made besides college. And we don't really think of college that way, because college just like, especially in my generation, it was just like, you just go, you know, and I had scholarships. So it probably still was like, so it was the biggest investment I'd ever made at a time when I had literally no money.
Right. Right.
And so like, that was like a turning point, but she was a catalyst for sure.
For sure. Yeah.
And,
I mentioned one of your blessings, or another one of the miracles that was coming your way.
Yeah, just randomly. I mean, I should even share that aspect, because it's like, once you see life's little synchronicities, I think that was so pivotal in like just learning to see them and like spin the story and see what was possible, or what I could control was big for me. Like, what can I control in this moment? And I love like this one teaching that's like, what's really wrong in this moment? And you're like, if you start saying like, well, my car's broken down, well, it's like, but are you trying to drive somewhere? Because if you're not, that's not bothering you in this moment. Like, I'm just here, I'm breathing, I'm healthy, I have my health. Wow, like nothing's wrong in this moment. It was like, it's not to say that you dismiss everything going on in your life. Like, you should definitely honor your feelings. You should definitely honor the journey and the experience, and like honor the fact, like, it's okay to say like, dude, life sucks right now. Life is really freaking hard right now. But taking the time to pause in that moment and just say, but what's wrong with this moment?
Would you say that's your biggest lesson that you took away from this?
Oh gosh. I don't even know. I think so. I think so, because it led to also the idea of, what can I control, and what I think that was my biggest lesson. What can I control, and what do I need to for my own sake release control of? Like that image of the hands holding onto a rope and they're burning. And it's talking about, sometimes it's, you don't realize how much you're hurting yourself by holding on. That was really pivotal too, of like, it was like, because in the beginning, I think I didn't understand. I was like, how dare you tell me to release control and not care, which was my interpretation of it, not care about what happens with my daughter. Like, this is my life. How do you not understand that? And like, no, I can't be homeless and think it's okay because I have a daughter. Like, no, I can't miss meals and think it's okay because I have a daughter. Like, no, I cannot like lose my daughter to somebody that I deem as very harmful and unsafe.
Sure.
Because she's everything. So like, how dare you say, well, you need to release control of that? But that's not what that's not what releasing control was. So I think it was the understanding of what that really meant.
Mm.
The understanding of like the victim mentality. Like, yes, you can have a lot of bad shit happening to you, but you have a choice in how you react to that. And you really, really do. It's one of the hardest things to like understand and really encapsulate, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and like really integrate into yourself and really take ownership of.
Right.
So,
Because you don't want to say, yeah, because and I don't know if this is what you were thinking or if this is what was coming up for you, but to give up control was almost like giving up your daughter in a
yeah,
way, because, but because I'm giving up control, that means that I don't love my daughter and
yes,
don't care about her future. And no. That has
yeah.
nothing to do. So it's coming to that understanding of that's not what this means to,
That's not what it means.
yeah.
Exactly. That
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of the ways that it's taught out there, even like the there are no victims, people get really, really angry about that.
Yep.
But it's the understanding and the integrating of it, where if you really accept that, it's so much easier to like heal and move forward and notice the blessings. Because when you are stuck in that, you can't even notice. Like, I wouldn't have noticed like, oh, I got approved for $3,500 for my dog that had cancer. I just focused on the fact like my dog got cancer on the same day my husband got in a car accident that wiped out all of our bank account money while I owe all this and this and this.
Yeah.
I wouldn't see it,
Mm-hmm.
And so like, yeah. So I think that that's the biggest thing. Cause that even helped me like, in my story that I started out with, where I had this beautiful home birth, rushed to the NICU, had to release control of everything, watch my son get pumped full of all these chemicals, hard ass chemicals,
Yep.
knowing the lines are lined with BPA and he's not going to breastfeed and he's not even being fed and he's on something harder than morphine and he's on steroids and he's on seven different antibiotics in the course of a month. So I'm like, they wiped out his entire gut biome and like, I'm like the granola mom. And like that point again of releasing control or understanding, like it's like, of course I cared if my son lived or died. That's why he was there.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to take ownership and power and realize where I needed to release control and what I couldn't. Because I had to remind myself a couple of times, like, I might not like what they're doing, but at any point in time, I am his mother. And if I think that I can take him home and give him something better, I can do that. I have the right to check him out.
Yeah.
So if
Well,
he's
and I knew you that during that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or was just starting to get to know you, and your composure and calm, not that you were faking being composed or calm under the pressure or whatever, but it was so, I don't even know how to describe it, but you were so cool, calm, and collected, like cool like a cucumber. And even asking, I mean, I think that you and I had messaged, privately, and, it came up like, how are you really doing, Katie? And it was, you were like, no, I'm actually really good. I mean, surprisingly, like you even surprised yourself. Surprisingly, I'm doing really well.
And it was,
go ahead.
No, and it was from that lesson. It was from that lesson of what do I need to release control of and what, like recognizing what's wrong in this moment and what do I have control of now? Because even at the hospital, like I went against their rules sometimes. Like I had played meditations for myself for a long time. That was something else I really got into, is like, I love this app called Relax Meditations or something. I don't get any kind of affiliate link for it. I'll show it too.
We can put the link down below too.
Relax Melodies. And I think I paid like $10 to $12 for lifetime access. So as they come out with more, whatever. And it has like, they have one called Life Coach where it's like getting yourself into a positive mindset or relaxing nap or all this other stuff or working your way into health. So I had like listened to those his entire pregnancy. And I was in the room one time and a lot of his numbers were crashing and they were getting really worried and we weren't supposed to stimulate him. And I just went against everything because I just felt it so hard. And I played the Increase Your Health meditation. And the nurse, I was lucky. The nurse was like, I wasn't like fighting against different people. I was just like, please, I played these during my, just let me try it. Like I played these during my pregnancy and I think he'll recognize it. Sure enough, his numbers start to go up and he starts to increase like before our eyes. and he's not getting wild. Like, I'm playing it very softly, and she let me play the whole thing for him, and then he was stable by the end of it. It's only 7 minutes or something. And so I just started like really focusing on what I could and couldn't control. And like, I still
Mm-hmm.
had talks with the doctors. Like, the doctors wanted to put him on this 21 long day antibiotic run after he had gotten an infection that I knew had been caused by the hospital staff. They knew it too. And I was like, he's done. Like, no, like, he's
Mm-hmm.
getting sicker here. Like, and they wanted to put a PICC line back in. He had already had a PICC line taken out. I know that these are all medical terms, but there was so much stuff where I was just like, I stood my ground, and we came to like a happy medium. And I
Good.
also, like I said, the whole time I understood too, like, I need to focus on what's positive. My
Mm-hmm.
partner, like, he was losing it, which I understand. It was his first son, and this was the experience,
Sure.
and he had a lot of guilt. He was saying, like, I should have never let you labor at home. I should have never blah, 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 blah,
Oh,
blah. Or, I didn't know that if you went over, you had a higher chance of meconium aspiration, which is what he had. By the way, I don't think I really went that far over. That's another story.
yeah.
But yeah, like, I
Mm.
focused on the fact, like, his oxygen went down today. He needs less, like, that's amazing. Or like, he was off, the first day that he got to eat anything. Like, every single step I celebrated. And there was always something to celebrate. He always
Yeah.
was, he was always going in the right direction. There was still scary times. There was still like, if this doesn't happen, we might have to transfer him to another hospital where they have this whole setup, and he'll have to blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Okay, sweetheart, I want to wrap this up.
Okay.
So what, to people that are listening and that are in the middle of something that they just feel complete lack of control of, what message would you give them?
Start seeing where you have control in every moment, and do the what's wrong with this moment exercise,
Mm-hmm.
where your mind isn't allowed to focus on anything that's not happening in this moment. Like, in this moment, I am talking with Carly across the computer, sitting on my bed, having a good time. Like, my body is working properly. I'm breathing. Like,
Yeah, there's nobody knocking down my door,
right.
trying to
Like,
take my car from me, or trying to take my house, or kicking
right.
me out, or yeah.
And then use that to empower yourself. Use that to recognize how much power you have in this moment. And if you can get to that space of clarity, it's so much easier to take that next step of, what else can I have control over? Like me, like,
Yeah.
I could have used the excuse easily that it was 114 degrees and I was pregnant, I shouldn't go running. But I was like, no, I want to run. Running makes me feel good. I know it makes me
Mm-hmm.
feel good. Even if I run for 5 minutes, I'll feel good.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go run.
Yeah.
So like, start using that to build baby steps. I'm totally not like a black and white person. I'm this. I'm
Mm-hmm.
such a great person. So it doesn't have to be like you go from sitting on your butt to running a marathon.
Right.
Like, just do something for 2 minutes that makes you happy, or that used to make you happy. If you like baking and you can't afford to buy baking ingredients, just look in your fridge and find, like, if there's a no bake option where you can make something with like peanut butter balls refrigerated.
Mm-hmm.
Just something to make you happy with
Something
what you
baby
have
step.
right now.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And I want to,
Awesome.
Carly, I want to share too, because I didn't get to, I'll make it really quick. But I went from like finally caving, being on welfare, going through the welfare series, to being the craziest success case they ever heard, because in 1 month I made $20,000. And then I ended up making over $100,000 in my business in the first year, going from being a welfare. And this is all while my ex was still going through litigation with his car accident, and we had to get his car fixed, and him not being able to work, and a newborn at home that ended up in the NICU. So despite all of that, and my dog still having cancer,
Mm-hmm.
despite and losing, and I lost my custody battle, by the way. I lost my custody battle. I have 50-50, well, I have 60-40, but they call it 50-50 custody. I wasn't able to move. So despite everything not going my way, I still triumphed once I learned what power and control I did have, and what I needed to release, and I focused more on what was good for my mental health and my mental clarity. Because just for the record too, where I was making crazy money, I left that job when it no longer suited me either. I was just done, because my mental health was the most important. So taking care of my happiness and following my joy and following what worked for me, and just trusting and knowing that I had been a maverick before and I could be a maverick again.
Yeah.
Like, I would say, look for that too. Look for where you've been a maverick in your life before. where you're like, there's no way this is going to work out, and it worked out, or there's no way I'm going to be able to come up with that money, and a random check appeared. Like, remember those times and then imprint those in your brain, and then focus on those. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing multiple shit shows. I love, oh my gosh, I love your Olive Garden shit show story.
I'll just call it the shit life. But it's like
that fits.
Embracing the shit life. That's what it should be called.
Because that should be like a title of your book.
Right? Embracing the shit life.
Yes. Thank you, my love.
Thank you for having me.
I know that the people that are listening and watching, that part of your story or all of your story is going to resonate with them and help them make it through. So thank you, love.
Of course. That makes all the difference. Thanks for having this.
Yes. See you guys on the next shit show. Bye.